On both sides of the aisle are vowing to provide Israel with aid and assistance in their fight. Kansas Senator and former military officer for the Army Reserve, Roger Marshall, joins us now to react. You know, Senator, we see this bipartisan support for aid to support Israel. But there's this growing faction on the left between, Bernie Sanders in the Senate to Rashida Tlaib in the House who are anti-Israel. So how does that complicate dynamics on Capitol Hill moving forward?
Well, look, the supermajority of people in Congress support Israel. For many of us, it's a personal, spiritual issue with this, but I think most every member of Congress realizes how important Israel is to our national security, that they've been a staunch ally to America for decades now, that they are the eyes and ears for America in one of the most troubled places in the world. So on a bipartisan basis for a decade now, we've been giving Israel about $4 billion, $3.8 billion to be exact, to help them defend their nation. So you'll see us circle the wagons here and support Israel. And most importantly, we believe that Israel has every right to defend their own nation, to defend their sovereignty.
Senator, I guess the question and the difference between administrations is how much leeway does Congress give? How much leeway does an administration give? You're going to have probably different leeway between a President Obama and a President Trump and a President Biden. Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis will have enough time? They've declared war to do the extensive military operations they need and get the backing of Washington to do so.
Yeah, well, it certainly was very disappointing to see Joe Biden come out of the gate and ask everyone to be calm and don't retaliate, when, again, Israel has every right to defend their nation and their sovereignty. What I'm more concerned about is, will Joe Biden quit supporting Iran, that they are the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, that this particular attack, that this war was started with Iran dollars as well as Iran scheming as well. So that's my big concern. Will Joe Biden turn down the volume and the support by Iran, who's actually supporting Hamas?
Yeah. Senator Marshall, I know you're over in the Senate, but over in the House, they're essentially, or not essentially, they are paralyzed. They have an interim speaker in McHenry, but he can't bring a bill to the floor, I don't believe, and I don't believe he can get a briefing either. How does that impact the situation as we deal with this going on in Israel?
Well, look, many of us were on a briefing this afternoon with some of our friends from Israel. A pro-Israel association gave us a good inside briefing from people on the ground, people that we've had a personal relationship with. I've been over to Israel multiple times. I've been on the Gaza Strip at these kibbutz and seeing actually what's going on as well. So we're going to continue those connections. I have faith in Patrick McHenry, who's the, I guess, the speaker pro temp, so to speak, that if we need to do something on an emergent basis, we will. But fortunately, again, this long-term relationship with Israel, we're working right now to make sure they have the intelligence that they need, and we've already actually helped them with their weaponry as well, with their Iron Dome. So I think Israel's in pretty good shape for the short term, and we'll sort it out. Whatever we need to do, we'll do it.
Well, and I appreciate that optimism, Senator, but I interviewed former Speaker Kevin McCarthy earlier today. Here's a little bit of what he said as to Lauren's question. Listen here.
The Speaker is part of the gang of the 8 that takes action to be able to have the briefings. Why would you ever remove a Speaker during a term to raise doubt around the world?
And so Speaker McCarthy, former Speaker McCarthy, says that bills can't go to the floor. So the legislative branch is, as Lauren said, essentially paralyzed. And yet also, where are we with confirming a sitting U.S. ambassador to Israel? Have we in Washington really lost sight of how important we needed to firm this relationship? And now maybe the legislative branch can't do much about it if they need to?
Well, look, we all know that the White House has turned their back on Israel, that they support Iran. Those are what the actions are. Again, don't listen to what Joe Biden says. Watch what he does. He turned his back on Israel. He supports Iran as well. Over and over again, we see those actions happening. All I can tell you is that there is large bipartisan support. I still think that as a Speaker pro temp, that Patrick McHenry can do what we need to get done. And the executive branch has a certain amount of authority as well. We're going to be there for Israel, whatever it takes.
Well, and Senator, you talk about this administration and their support for Iran. I mean, we look at that money that they just unfroze, $6 billion. So why is this administration, and mind you, he announced that on 9/11, and then that money likely went to this 9/11 style attack in Israel. But why is this administration funding terrorists?
Well, you should ask them. Barack Obama himself said, whatever Joe Biden is doing on the foreign relations front for national security, you should basically do the opposite. And I'm kind of paraphrasing there because this is a G-rated TV show here. But I think that you have to ask Joe Biden. Whatever he does turns out to be wrong. We saw it with the debacle in Afghanistan. We're seeing Ukraine crumble apart as well right now. And here we are. The reason that Hamas feels comfortable doing this is because they don't respect Joe Biden. Nobody respects him. He's a gutless wonder. Nobody respects him. And that's why these terrorist groups are reigning free right now.
Senator Marshall, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we've got war now in Europe and then now the Middle East as well under this administration. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Coming up.